Thank you so much for joining us. Okay. So I just want to present myself and the whole team. So we are Rocio Day LLC. Rocio Day is joining us on the call today. And basically what we want to do is let the community know about our private practice. We have a group private practice that specializes in anxiety, trauma, and depression. We deal with a lot of clients that are coming from the private sector. So if you have private insurance, you are able to access our services. We also do provide sliding pay scale. So depending on your income, you can also access therapeutic services from us. You can see all the information at www.rocio-day.org. And today, specifically, we're going to talk about our situation and what's going on in our society with COVID-19. We're going to talk a little bit about the crisis and what it means for us as a society, as a community. We're also going to talk about what anxiety and depression is. Okay, we're going to do a little breathing exercise for all of us so that we know what to do and what helps the anxiety. And we're going to finish it off with a little bit of what's next. What should you do now? Okay, good. So joining us on the call is Rocio Day.
Well, good morning. I'm interested in talking about this from the point of view of, for example, what happened to us in 9/11. And what is the difference between that and this kind of moment that we're living right now? In 9/11, I was one of the first responders. I was in Manhattan, probably not the next day, but the second day, working with many people whose parents were probably policemen and first responders. And I was working with the family and the children and trying to help them to deal with the crisis. But it was, by the time that I started working with them, already they knew that this was a one-time event, that we were not at war with anybody, and that right now the important thing was for people to help each other in the crisis, and for these young people wanted to be close to their families and help in every way they could, and for them to know what were they going to access if they began to have symptoms of anxiety or trauma, and explain to them what that was. But it was a crisis that was going to be contained. When I also then was asked to go talk to the Hispanic community in Staten Island and to the workers who were now picking up the pieces and were pretty traumatized by then. Many of those people came from countries where they were running away from the wars that they had, and the families were in trauma. And again, the whole idea was to let them know that this was just a one-time event, and how to access help for themselves, what to do about the symptoms, how to calm themselves down at this time. Today, we are in a very different type of crisis, because it is like we don't know when it's going to end. It is ongoing. It is always an invisible enemy that we can't really fight against, and it creates a lot of people who are home with nothing to do. Yeah.
During that time of 9/11 and that crisis, like you said, it was more of a one-time event, right?
Right.
But it definitely held some residual trauma for a lot of individuals. A lot of people were going out. They were very scared to take flights. You know, they were very scared to walk outside and thinking that this was going to be a terroristic event. This was going to continue. In this case, where we have COVID-19, a lot of people are also experiencing high levels of anxiety, you know, going outside, getting sick for their loved ones. There's a lot of uncertainty during this time. There's a lot of things that are going on outside where people are walking around with masks and things like that. How do they relate to just history of trauma and anxiety, and how people would react during this time, in your opinion?
Well, in this time, it's that the people in 9/11 were actually working. They were trying to find where their parents were. They were trying to find food for the family. They were totally involved in being useful, and they were needed in every single way. So they didn't have time to really just sit and worry about everything. They were taking care of each person was taking care of their own family and or their neighbors, because there was so much work to be done at that point. But we are not in that type of situation. Most people that we have are all the unemployed that are healthy, people who would be working, yet there's nothing really that they can do right now if they think of it as work. What they need to come to put their efforts into is to try to provide a sense of refuge and security within their ambience, within their own place, to give those children and the people that are with you a sense of security within your home. And that is hard to do, because if you are depressed and you're thinking and worrying and overreacting to everything, you're maintaining a sense of level of anxiety when that really is not necessary. Right now, more than anything, is the ability to wait and uh, to think of yourself as, what can I do now that I couldn't do before because I worked? There's many things you can do in your home, many ideas you can play with your children or talk with your children, get to know your children. Fortunately, many of the schools have sent, all the kids are receiving learning online, so you have that time to work with them. But this is also a time when you can really sit down as a family and talk to each other about what's going on, and find ways of relating to them in a way that allows them to see a different way of reacting to what's going on.
Yeah, and we'll definitely go into that a little more for our viewers. We'll definitely go into that a little more towards the end. I want to now, kind of pass the mic over to Natalia and Fabio. I guess to start with Natalia. Natalia, what are your views? How has this impacted our mental health community?
Mm-hmm. Hello. As a therapist, I have to tell that we are going through really tremendous and dangerous, let's say, and exceptional times. And everyone in community is affected. Let's say that crisis is caused social isolation, a change in your work schedule, routines, and work style at all, job loss, uncertainty about future, and worry about getting sick. All these tremendously affect the quality of our lives. And while all of us try to handle the situation and cope with our ups and downs, some people in our community, especially those who, let's say, have a history of previous trauma, anxiety-related concerns, or PTSD, panic attack, they may be facing much more challenges than many of us. And I would say that probably feelings of powerlessness, hopelessness, sadness, maybe depression, confusion, could be common feelings around those people. And at the same time, I would like to emphasize what actually Rocio told previously. Those situations, this event would not last forever. So it would be that is a kind of temporary situation. One day it will be done. So just keep in mind that that is just temporary. That is not for long.
How about you, Fabio? What are your opinions about this time?
Right. I think in terms of slowing down a lot more, especially in this society, we're not used to that. We're just so used to being on the go, being busy. And for a lack of a better term, I feel like that's kind of like distracting us from our problems, right? We can get lost in our work. We can get lost in socializing. We can get lost in entertainment. And all those things have been kind of taken away from us. So it's kind of forcing us to really like examine our lives in a sense. You know, am I where I want to be right now? Do I have the connections do I want in my life right now? Are my goals really satisfying to me? So it's causing a lot of people to pause and reflect and kind of have to lean into those emotions. Where before there was so many more distractions, and now that's just not there anymore. So I think that's a huge hurdle, not only for people who already have mental health issues, but for the general population in our society, because we're not used to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is
And one thing that has happened with the people that I've seen is that domestic violence has become even more aggravated, because the frustration of people wanting it to be over, for people that are not able to calm themselves down, is then aggravated by having the kids at home and having everything not the way they're used to, and the frustration that they feel like they can't do anything about it becomes anger, and that has created also a lot of problems for many families.
Yeah, absolutely. So all these feelings, guys, a lot of people are dealing with these feelings in many different ways, and a lot of our community, a lot of our society, a lot of our family members are dealing with a lot of things. And we see like Fabio said, we become so involved now in looking at the TV and social media, but sometimes that also aggravates our feelings of anxiety. And just to kind of touch on a little bit of what anxiety and depression is, guys, a little bit about the biochemistry. Anxiety happens in the amygdala, right? Anxiety is this fight or flight mechanism that we really all have. We all get anxious at different moments in time. But an anxiety disorder is an aggravated level of that, right? And what happens is you get over worried about a lot of things. You start questioning your own mentality. You get depersonalization. Rocio herself, she's practiced for the past 35 years with the community of anxiety. Rocio, can you touch on a little bit, what does anxiety do to us as a person? What does it do to our mentality and our way of thinking? What is anxiety, and how does that relate to depression?
Well, the problem with anxiety is that people who are experiencing anxiety are getting enough adrenaline, so their body is in a state of flight or fight. So the problem with that is, what does that really mean? That really means that all the thoughts that you have are going to be catastrophic thoughts, negative thoughts. Thoughts that you might be dying, that you're never going to get a job again, that everything is going to fall apart, that you can't concentrate. And for many people, that kind of anxiety turns into anger, you have frustration, you don't want to do anything, you're angry at everybody. And it turns into anger and the inability to open your mind to other possibilities. Yeah. So part of what we would like to do, or that we are trying to talk, is there's a few things you could do more immediately to calm yourself down, and begin to look at the possibilities of what you have right now. Because right now, you should be reading to see what it is that Congress is passing. What are your possibilities? How are you going to get your name, or go ask for unemployment? All of that is going to take many hours of your time, and you need to be calm, and you need to be able to deal with those types of frustrations. But at that point, you're doing something positive for yourself and your family. So you need to put those energies, that anxiety, into things that are really going to bring your family something that will help in the months to come or the weeks to come.
Yeah, another thing that happens with anxiety is they did a study on the brain and anxiety, right? And the amount of oxygen that the brain intakes. And you see a lot of anxiety in people because Rocio, like Rocio said, there's a lot of cognitive distortion. And this comes because the brain, the amygdala center is being is hyperactivated, right? The brain is taking in so much oxygen, right, from your body. So you'll see a lot of anxious people biting their nails, moving their hands, moving their feet, right? You'll see a lot of anxiety in a lot of people because what their body, there's a physiological reaction to this anxiety. So you start feeling stomach pains, you start feeling headaches, right? You start feeling that your body really starts feeling chills, sweaty palms. It starts feeling a lot of physiological things. The harder part is that anxiety has like a sister, right? And anxiety's sister is depression, and many times anxiety comes hand in hand with depression, right? Because your body's, your amygdala, your emotion center is so hyperactive that now it starts aggravating your emotions, right? So you start really falling down. And I'd like to veer off a little bit now to the team, guys. What's your opinion on anxiety and depression, and why is that so related? How does that affect the individual? Fabio, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they do go hand in hand. And I believe there's a quote that says, if you're anxious, you're worried about the future. If you're depressed, you're worried about the past. And I think, they both take us away from the present moment. And I think that's what's the most powerful thing that we can do right now, right? Like, we can't control what happened already in terms of the shutdown or job loss or whatever. We don't know what's going to happen in the next coming days, but we can control what we can in this moment. And I think that's like a huge part of that. The anxiety comes from the uncertainty, right? We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know when we're going to get back to work, get back to normalcy or whatever normal used to look like for us. And that depression is kind of that grief, right? That mourning or loss of the life that we used to have. So to say that we're not going to feel those things is not, not true, because we're going to feel that, but we can feel those emotions and then do something about it, or focus on being more present in the moment to kind of like mitigate those feelings.
Definitely. Thank you. Natalia, what are your thoughts as far as what does anxiety and depression mean to you?
Yeah. So anxiety and depression, yes, they come kind of together. It doesn't matter what will manifest first. Because look, when we're talking about people with anxiety, they have, like Rocio mentioned before, and Jeffrey as well, they have two ways of distorted thinking. They overestimate the probability of negative event, and they overestimate the severity of negative event. So they think that if something happened and it's likely to happen, that the consequences would be very severe, very damaging, almost unrecoverable, right? So, and when they stay constantly in the state of searching for outside danger, we can imagine how in this situation they may feel when they have not just imaginary danger in their head, but they have also real danger through what I mean, being let's say, get sick or getting all the symptoms, right? So, and when they have this anxiety, immediately depression may come, because we remember about the triad of the depression: feelings of worthless, the world is unfair, and the future is hopeless. So when we have a lot of uncertainty and we feel out of control for someone of them who feels this way, the depression can come and become even maybe more severe, or they can switch each other: anxiety, depression, and there's when there's absolutely no hope, that is the sign of depression. So this kind of interplay they may be having in this way.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And just remembering that anxiety it causes that cognitive distortion, guys. So for people that are dealing with a higher level of anxiety, we're not always thinking straight, and that part becomes a huge obstacle in our current situation. Because, like both Fabio and Rocio and Natalia have spoken, I love the way that Fabio, the way you said it. It's not about focusing on our past or future. Let's focus on our current place, right? Where we are now. And I think that that's what needs to happen a lot more within our current situation, because there's so much anxiety of what can happen tomorrow. If you look at the news, there's so much news that's going to just aggravate your anxiety, because the news catastrophizes what's going on in our world, right? And it really looks at, all everybody that's dying and everybody that's in the hospitals and everybody that's getting sick, right? So you become very anxious about it. And when you have a higher level of anxiety, guys, also keep in mind that your immunity kind of drops, right? Because your immune system needs to protect you. It needs to protect your body. So when you are in this state of fight or flight, in this state of anxiety, your body needs to protect you from that. So it lowers your immune system and you have a higher susceptibility of getting sick, right, guys? So we want to definitely try to make sure that we do more to protect ourselves, to protect our body. And also with depression brings down certain chemicals. So guys, you think about a couple of main chemicals, and I won't go into the chemistry of it as much, but when you look at serotonin, it's kind of like the happy drug, right? Cortisol and dopamine, right? These things are sometimes lowered. Your brain is not able to gain all the chemicals that it really needs. So what happens with depression? You have a lower level of dopamine, which means you have a lower level of motivation, right? So what are people going to do with this time? They're going to feel really tired, right? And they're going to just want to watch Netflix all day or watch TV all day and not want to do anything. Their motivation is going to really, really lower. With anxiety, you're going to it activates that fight or flight, right? So within the fight or flight, you need to be ready and prepared for fight or flight, which means you're going to have a harder time falling asleep, right? You're going to have a lot of trouble falling asleep, and a lot of people that are having anxiety have trouble falling asleep, and then also sometimes wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, right? Rocio, what's your experience as far as people with anxiety and depression, and how can somebody know, hey, I'm really dealing with anxiety, a lot of anxiety, and maybe more anxiety than I really thought I was? How can somebody know that they're really going through this?
Well, one of the things that happens when your body is changing because you're getting adrenaline and norepinephrine into the body, and your breathing has changed. Remember that the moment that you begin to get anxious, your breathing changes. And when your breathing changes, there are certain feelings you're going to have, which is what makes people even more scared. Because if you are over breathing, you're going to have a tight chest. You're going to feel that you can't catch your breath. You're going to feel dizzy or lightheaded. Some people get sick to the stomach. And all of these are the consequences of flooding your body with adrenaline, norepinephrine, all the flight or fight chemicals that you would utilize if you were fighting or running. But since you're not doing that, your body's trying to get rid of these chemicals that you have in your body. And the way that it works in our bodies is that we're depressed when that is happening, and you begin to define those. If my heart is racing and my chest is tight, then I think I'm having a heart attack, or I'm dizzy and lightheaded, there's something wrong with my brain, or because I feel like I'm out of control, it's probably because I'm going crazy. So all these thoughts maintain the level of excitability that you're in. Those are the thoughts that your body is going to give you at that time. Part of that is not that you are not getting those feelings, the sweating, the hot flashes, the dizziness. Yes, you are, but they're mostly because you are in a state of excitement. Your body is in a state of anxiety and panic, and your thoughts give homeostasis to this. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is what can you do right then and there. If you can't get to the emergency room or wherever people go, that's where they go, and then they find out that I was only anxious. But right now, some of the things you can do is to learn how to breathe, learn how to calm yourself down, stop looking at TV, concentrate on the now and the here and now. And we're going to do a breathing exercise that will help you stay in the now. And as you do it, you begin to calm down. Whether you're highly angry, you're highly anxious, it will bring you it's called the calming breath. And if you do it correctly, you will feel the calmness come back to your body. Right. And then you need to when you do this, to really put in process during your life, staying in the here and now, finding something productive to do, something that you can do right now. We can't do anything about what's happening on the outside. Nobody can do it. So we're waiting for time to go by so that so that there can be some changes. But having us be angry or furious or scared isn't going to make any changes.
Right, and
it's not under your control. Nothing. Yeah. It's like the air you breathe, or because there's a storm. We need to wait.
And what we're going to go into a little bit is what helps during this anxiety, and we'd really like to focus a lot more on what helps this anxiety and where we're going to go with it. Okay, we don't want to talk too much about the whole situation that we're going through right now, as far as everything that's going to cause you anxiety just listening to it. We just want to be able to let you guys know there are some things that you guys may be doing that's going to aggravate your anxiety, right? That is not to tell any of the viewers, hey, don't worry about the situation that's happening. Of course, we need to be very mindful of what's happening in our community. We need to practice social distancing. We need to cover up our faces when we go into stores and things like that, as the CDC has recommended. It's really not about whether or not we believe or not believe, or we're going to get sick or we're not going to get sick. It's really more about just being in our present moment, okay, and working through this as a community, and really stabilizing our emotions. So something that happens in the brain, and like I spoke before, there's a lot of research on the amount of oxygen that your brain intakes, right? So they did research on the actual brain, and they saw in an anxious brain, pockets of oxygen. You see pockets of oxygen in the brain because the brain just taking up a lot of the oxygen from our bodies. So that's where the hyperventilating comes from, the overbreathing, right? So what we're going to go through right now is something that's called diaphragmatic breathing. And as a team, Rocio is going to lead us through a diaphragmatic breathing, and that's going to start off the conversation on what we can do to help anxiety. What are the things that we should be doing right now as we're home that could really help us in bringing the anxiety down? So, Rocio, can you go into this diaphragmatic breathing, and why is diaphragmatic breathing important, and how is that different than just taking a deep breath? Why can't we just take a deep breath instead of going into diaphragmatic breathing? Why is diaphragmatic breathing specifically important?
Because your breath, it's like the clicker on your TV. In India, they have been working with the breath for thousands of years. And what they see the breath as the clicker that changes your mood from anxiety to calmness by utilizing your breath. So I am just going to explain. I'm not going to go through all the research right now, but what happens with the problem when you're over breathing is that the amount of oxygen to carbon is very stable in the body. The moment that you are over breathing and you have more oxygen than carbon, that is what triggers all the anxiety and triggers the amygdala to begin to send all the chemicals to the body to get ready to run or to fight. So that's, if you want to calm yourself down, then you need to understand that your breath is the button that is going to trigger all the other anxiety feelings that you have. There are I'm going to give you two types of ways of doing it, so that if you feel trapped in one, you have the other one, okay? So, and you can pick whatever it is. Now, I don't want you to do more than 3 times and then stop. And then be aware of your breathing as you always. Diaphragmatic breathing means that you're not breathing up on top. If your chest is moving, you're over breathing. Okay. So I want you to imagine you have a pipe that goes from your mouth to your abdomen. And right now, this is a yoga practice. So people who do yoga will understand. And I'm saying it because I know many people do yoga so that you understand. I want all the air out of your body as we let it out. And that's the objective, and stay with without breathing for as long as your body says that you can do that. When your body says you have to breathe, then I want you to do so and breathe in slowly. Okay, so let's now begin. So take all the breath out. Now breathe in slowly. Make sure your stomach muscles are coming out. Hold your breath until your body says you have to breathe. Okay, so let the breath out. Okay, that's one way of doing it. How was that?
Right. That was great.
Huh?
That was great. Definitely something for our viewers to understand is that the breathing should also be very stable, right? Don't take a nice pace. What happens when you're holding your breath as long as you can is, like Rocio said, you create that pipe from your diaphragm, from your abdomen level, and you create a pipeline through the stem to the brain. So that really gives the brain a lot more of that oxygen that it really needs.
And what you are doing is you're creating carbon. That's what you're doing. Okay? So let's do the other one if you want.
Yes, great.
Okay, so, and I want your hands on your abdominal muscles. I didn't say that before, because I want you to, when you breathe in, I want your muscles to, you feel that, okay? So let me do the other one. Okay, the same thing, keep your hands there. Let all the air out. Sleep, breathe in. And let the air out. And hold, don't breathe. Now notice that when you do this and you're holding your breath, you're going to have feelings sometimes that you're a little dizzy or lightheaded. That's all part of the process. But what you're really doing is restarting your breath in the normal sense, like trying to build some carbon in your body.
Yeah. So great. Thank you so much for that, Rocio.
Do that 3 times a day. Don't do it all day long. Okay? If you start hyperventilating, you do it 3 times in the morning, then maybe do it again at lunch, maybe at night. Or if you're starting to get angry, this is a perfect breath to do. That is the breath that most help people with anger. If you can catch yourself and do it, it will calm you enough so that you can rethink what you're going to do or say.
Yeah, it feels so good, guys. Really pushing. The key to this breathing, guys, the key to diaphragmatic breathing is pushing off of your stomach. And the holding of the breath, obviously all of us can hold our breath maybe at different moments of time. That's okay. Hold your breath as long as you can, as long as your body then says, hey, breathe. And when you're ready to breathe in slow. It's about you creating regulation to your body. See, anxiety is creating chemicals that's exciting your body. So you are now taking the initiative to kind of change that yourself and saying, I am going to be in control of my body right now. Okay?
And for people who are terrified because they can't catch your breath, when you do this, it immediately opens up the passageway so you can catch your breath.
Yeah. Natalia, what are some ways that people could help themselves during this moment with anxiety? What are some things that maybe you share with your clients about what they can do to alleviate their anxiety or their depression?
Mm-hmm. So in long term, I usually encourage my clients to practice deep breathing slowly, starting from a couple of breaths every day and gradually increasing up to 1 week, to the second, to the third week. And after 3 weeks, we usually feel this effect. Either people become a little bit more calm, people feel better because they can predict and can manage at some level, the level of their anxiety. And people see that they become, let's say, in general, more calm. Because when the anxiety comes, and especially when there's, let's say, a panic attack, we cannot breathe right now during the panic attack. But if we are able to identify and to catch our feelings long before, so it gives the good instrument how we can manage, like future panic attack, how we can to lower the intensity or severity of the panic attack. So clients, let's say 80% of my clients, they apply deep breathing as well as different other relaxations. But what also I recommend my clients to do is to at the moment when they feel anxious, because look, when you're anxious, it's really hard to concentrate on something and to do something productively. Like Fabio told before, we constantly jump into the future, right? So, and we miss and really spoil the present moment. So what helps us to come back, to return ourselves to the present moment, is to ground ourselves in our 5 senses. Just you remember, we have 5 senses, and when we allow our senses to work for us, it would be a great activity which allow yourself to anchor you in the present moment. Just simply, I love this exercise which is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you can pick up any sense. First of all, you can pick up, let's say, your sight, right? And find, if you feel anxious, find in the room 5 things which you can literally see and describe. The size, the color, and many different parameters. You can describe this loudly, you can describe this sound silently, it doesn't matter. So you identify 5 things, you mention them, you describe. Then you go to your next sense, which can be hearing, right? Try to hear any sounds in your room. Like 4 sounds. If that's hard to identify, you can create the sound, just take a pen and do this. We see some sounds, try to describe the sound, okay? Another sound, maybe something from outside. Then you can go to the next sense, or touch, right? So go out around the room and touch something. Let's say you can identify the table. Touch this table and describe what material is that made on, what temperature, what are those your feelings when you touch this table. Then you go to the next sense and to the next. So being in that help you to bring yourself into the present moment, and being in this present moment, actually, which is absolutely safe, will help you to decrease your anxiety and just to be grounded.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Natalia. Thank you for sharing that. That 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Really understanding your senses. It creates cognitive restructuring. So because your cognition is always doing this, and because in anxiety you're moving, you need to bring yourself back to balance in the present moment. Thank you for that, Natalia. Thank you for sharing that. Fabio, what are some of your techniques that you deal with anxiety or depression? And maybe if you could even go into describing a little bit about CBT and what CBT is.
Okay, yeah. So cognitive CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's disputing irrational thoughts, basically, and how you can take actions and behaviors to challenge your thoughts, and then that'll help you to change your feelings. Emotions are messages, right? Messages from our body to do something, right? Anxiety is not in itself harmful. It's not a bad thing. It's what do we do with that message, right? If we're just sitting around or watching TV, it's like, when someone's knocking on the door, if you don't answer it, they're going to start knocking louder. So the anxiety is basically what happens, right? It starts knocking for you to do something, and if you don't move to do something about it, it gets louder and louder, and it increases. So I think just physically moving your body is something that's really, really helpful when it comes to that. I know with social distancing is a little bit more difficult, especially now with New Jersey state and county parks being closed. But just taking a walk around the block, make sure you have your precautions, your mask, or whatever you need to do. But just moving your body is so important. There's so many more, online videos for exercises. They have yoga videos. They have, maybe aerobic videos that you can do. So just moving your body in that sense can help to kind of just flush out that anxiety and that cortisol that builds up, because that'll allow you to feel like you're taking action. Meditation is definitely my biggest tool that I use personally, and that I recommend to all my clients. And it can be difficult at times, especially if someone's not used to doing that first. So you can start with just maybe 2 minutes a day, maybe 5 minutes a day, and kind of build yourself up to that. There's so many great apps out there right now that can show you how to meditate, do guided meditations, or even just putting in on YouTube, search guided meditation and see what comes up. Similar to, grounding yourself with your senses, it really causes you to focus on the breath and really just kind of get used to letting your thoughts come and go. Right? With CBT, we tend to think that, our thoughts are real because they're our thoughts, but they're just thoughts, right? They're just, coming and going like everything else. So if we don't get attached to them, we realize that this too will pass, and eventually, something else will come up. So that's definitely one of them as well. In terms of being more in the moment, I think, circle of control and understanding that is very important. So basically, circle of control is the things you can control, that's, within your control, and then outside of that is your circle of concern, so things that you really have no control over that. So maybe before all this, if you got stuck in traffic, or if the weather was bad, you can't do anything about that. So you try not to get upset at those things. But, leaving earlier or bringing an umbrella is within your control, so that helps to feel more empowered. I think with everything right now, we realize how little we do have control over. So then it focuses to spend more time on those things that we can. And I think with that is just really having a schedule. I think what allowed a lot of us to feel at ease was we had a routine, right? If we had jobs, we had, a schedule to adhere to. If we had to go pick up the kids after school, that was part of the process. So a lot of anxiety is, well, what do I do next? And a lot of us are not used to that self-regulation. And rituals are so important to us because it's something that our bodies respond to naturally. Like the sleep and wake cycle is very a natural rhythm in our bodies. So actually, to share a story that made me think about all this, there's a man named Admiral Byrd, who's one of the first explorers of Antarctica. who actually stayed there for 6 months by himself doing research. And he kept detailed notes of how he kept himself sane. And basically, he scheduled his time in 15-minute blocks throughout the day. So he literally gave himself something to do every 15 minutes to constantly keep his mind in the present. And not to say that we have to go to that extreme, but just to have, a certain schedule, like wake up the same time every day, go to bed same time every day, kind of stick to a similar schedule in terms of, hours at work in the morning, your meal times, create some sense of normalcy to help you to say, okay, well, I know tomorrow is going to be more or less because it's going to be similar to what today was. And I think if, we combine those things, that can really help people to stay more present.
Definitely. Thank you for that. Great points with that. Something about meditation as well, guys. Meditation, and you guys could YouTube guided meditation. You could YouTube meditation music. Like Fabio said, there's a bunch of apps that could absolutely help you with that as well. In the website, rocio-day.org, if you look under resources, we have a guided meditation that Rocio herself does as well. Meditation, guys, it's such a powerful tool, right? Because one, it gets you to the place where you are at your present moment inside your mind, right? So you close your eyes and you get to that present moment, and then you kind of create a different scenario inside your head sometimes, right? Like some people meditate about being on the beach, some people meditate about being in the woods, or certain colors and things like that. It is a way to stabilize your mind. Meditation is super, super important, right? I really believe that meditation should be as important as nutrition, for example, because nutrition is also another thing that's really important with managing anxiety, right? So remembering that if we our brain sectors that are trying to be alleviated during this time want to go to the sugary products, the higher levels of caffeine, the high fatty foods, that's absolutely going to affect our state of mind, guys. It's like you're suffocating your brain and allowing it to go through anxiety even more so. Meditation, breathing, yoga, right? Exercise. Guys, exercise is super important as well during this time. This is part of stabilizing the self. We need to pay attention to the self, right? So that we could pay attention to others, right? Because many times we're caring for a part, we're having a relationship with a partner, or we're caring for children, right? Or we're caring for family members, right? Or maybe if you are by yourself in your own house, right? If you're lucky enough to even be in that place, you get to care for just you, right? And another thing that you could do is, like Fabio said, the whole structuring piece, guys, super important. We are humans of routine. We love routine. We love having things to do, right? We need that, a routine, because this is absolutely helpful during this time. Great. So we want to end this off with talking a little bit about what is next. Rocio, what can we expect? What should we look out for when leaving this situation? What should we look out for when this is now over, right? And what can we do to prepare ourselves for success?
Well, this is a time where you can use your time in ways that are good for your whole family. So one thing for sure is that this time will be over. And if you think about it, like once it's over, I can look back and say, gee, I spent that time making a relationship with my kids, learning to play cards with them, hearing them, getting to understand, learning how to cook the food with my wife, being part of the family, hearing people's fears, and being able to not get upset or angry and address all of that. You can have all of that as an accomplishment when you look back on this time. On the other hand, you can be miserable and not do anything and be crying and not wanting to be angry at everybody, and you have to start work again. But the whole idea about life is that when we have an obstacle, when we have a problem, is not just to keep on going, but to live the obstacle, try to solve that obstacle, understand that obstacle, learn from it. So when it's over, you have grown in some way, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and you feel like, you know what? Those were the days of my life that I was able to continue growing and maturing and overcoming my fears, because I needed to give to my children and my wife or my husband a feeling of refuge and safety, and bring the best of my spirit to them. You know, that's called bringing good spirit. I don't know in Spanish, that was something that we had to do with the nuns. If you don't have good spirit to any endeavor, you were given a very bad grade, because part of life is giving the best of you to any problem or any obstacle or any opportunity that you have. And would you just say, what is the best that I can do for them, as an example? And I think that it's something that you are going to value and have, and it's something you can't buy anywhere. It's only something that you can do now.
Thank you.
To invest in the life and the children and the people you love.
Great. Yes. Fabio, what do you think about this? What should people prepare themselves for? What can we do next, right? What can we do to make sure that when we get out of this situation, when we overcome this time, we set ourselves up for success?
Right. I think, as I said before, this is a time of reflection, right? So a lot of times we're working so hard, or we're constantly trying to gain or produce or achieve. They won't stop and ask yourselves, well, is this the life I really want to live? You know, am I really creating the relationships that I want in my life? Am I really, you know, developing and nurturing those relationships? Am I in the job or the career or even the location that I really want to be in? You know, so many times we're so busy, like, you know, driving our cars, that we don't maintain it, and then when the car breaks down, then we have no choice, right? So we all have this gift, I would say, right now, of a timeout where we can't stop and ask ourselves those questions. And I actually saw a post about this. You know, one person said, if you're not developing a skill or achieving something right now, then you wasted this time. And then another person flipped it and said, well, if you're not doing that, that's okay, because we're going through a national crisis or a global crisis, and we're all dealing with trauma in different ways. So I think another piece of this is understanding that it's okay to just be sometimes. You know, I think part of the reason why we have such an anxiety issue, maybe in this country specifically, is that we always feel the need to do more, right? To have more, to be more, to accomplish more. But it's okay to just be yourself. It's okay to just, you know, be present with yourself, to just build the bonds with your loved ones. And I think we can really do that right now and cultivate those relationships. Because, you know, jobs can come and go, money will come and go, but it's the relationships that matter most to us in our lives. You know, as my one professor in my grad school would say, you don't go to counseling because you got a flat tire, because, you know, you broke your foot. You go to counseling because you have relationship problems, either, you know, in the marriage or with parents or with coworkers, right? So life's all about relationships. So I would say the best thing that we can do right now is invest in those. And when we go back to normal, you know, we see where those relationships can take us.
Thank you. Natalia, what can people do next to make sure to achieve success after this time?
Okay. I think that different people will draw different conclusion from the situation, will learn different lessons and find different meaning in this situation. And what I see clear for myself right now is that we have learned, all of us probably, this very important thing, that we can experience pain, anxiety, and depression, and even despair and sadness, and live. And we are able to face the situation, to tolerate the situation, and to stay in the situation and not run away. So people, I think that many of us will learn, especially those who are having anxiety-related issues. You remember they overestimate this perceived danger, right? So there's another thing, they usually underestimate their ability to cope with the situation. So being able to tolerate the situation and to stay in the situation, they may use this situation as a proof to finally convince themselves how strong they are, how resilient they are, and they probably may have this positive self-talk. Okay, I'm struggling, but I'm still keep going. I'm in this situation. I develop the survival skills, which can become my coping skills. And no matter if my anxiety or depression will come back, or the bad time will come back, I learned how to cope with that because I survived the problem. So from my point of view, it's very resourceful situation at the same time, like it's kind of really enormous, but at the same time very resourceful and situation which help us to grow.
Definitely. Thank you for that. And I think to our viewers, another thing that we can make sure that we do so that we could leave this time successful, and like Fabio had said, to look back and to say that we used our time proactively, right? Mm-hmm. Again, guys, like we said before, a lot of these things that we should be doing to kind of just help ourselves, there's so much more that we could also be doing to be part of our community still. There is a lot of individuals that are streaming live, that are sharing some really positive messages, right? Mm-hmm. Do that. There are church practices and religious faiths that are also streaming live, right? That should also be part of your life if you want to strengthen your spirituality, right? There are telehealth, for example, guys. We can't, obviously, as therapists, we are going to advocate for therapy. Sometimes, this moment, if you haven't tried therapy, this is the moment where you should, right? So that when you leave this moment, you feel more successful, you feel more prepared to take on the world, right? There's so much that you can do right now to leave this situation more positive. One thing that I would absolutely recommend is that we steer away from negative situations, right? We steer away from binging on Netflix or binging on video games or binging on screen time in general. Play an instrument, write, journal, read, right? All these things can prepare yourself for success when we leave this situation, okay? Because our next step is to come out of this stronger, come out of this with more love in our heart and nourished a lot more than we came into this situation. Because society outside, the world, the news is going to spew negativity a lot. So it is our responsibility as individuals that we step out of this situation and our next step be one of love and community, right? So, Rocio, final messages about this time.
Again, I think that this is an opportunity for you to bring the best of you to your family and come out of this stronger, wiser, and feeling like you have found a way to deal with some of the difficult times of your life. So invest your time with the people you love. Invest your time showing them that this is a time when you want to make a relationship with them. They can make a relationship with you, and make it memorable. And because this is a wonderful opportunity for that, to show who we really are to the people we love.
Nice. Thank you, Rocio. Thank you for joining us on this call as well. Natalia, what are your final messages to our viewers dealing with this time?
Mm-hmm. I would say that don't push too much demand on yourself to try to do a lot. Just look and listen yourself. There are some days which when you may do much more. The other days when you just don't have this extra energy or energy at all. Just listen to yourself, stay with yourself, and be kind to yourself. Just say some kind word. Just forgive yourself for something, and don't try to push yourself to work harder. That's important. And stay positive, of course. The pandemic is not the only thing in the world, right? So remember that 99% of us would be fine. And even those who will develop some symptoms, they will have mild or moderate symptoms. And just remember that this is temporary. Okay, so stay steady and take care of your loved ones.
Thank you, Natalia. Fabio, final messages for our viewers.
Yeah, similar to what Natalia was saying in terms of just being compassionate with ourselves. It's really just riding the waves, right? I think we're all going through it. Even the best of us who study this and stay positive, we all go through our ups and downs. We have ups and downs in our regular lives, let alone in times of crisis, in times of such severe issues. But just learn to ride the waves, right? You're gonna have your ups, you're gonna have your downs. Stay present as much as possible, and just reach out. Everyone's kind of going through this right now, so if you can connect with people you haven't spoken to in a long time and just kind of support each other, right? We're all in this together. So the more we can have that sense of community, I think the more we'll be able to kind of handle the ups and downs that come our way.
Nice, great, thank you. Yeah. And as a final message from me to our viewers is really take this time, guys, to focus on the self. Whatever happened, whatever you did before, this moment is shared. This catastrophe, this crisis is a shared moment with everyone. From this point forward, when we get out of this situation, everyone gets a shared open door as well. You get to leave this situation in the same moment as everybody else, right? So you could be renewed as well. Nobody's to tell you that you're going to be the same person. If anything, guys, we're quarantined going over a month now. Sometimes we haven't seen our friends for over a month. Every person that you're going to see after this, every hug that you're going to give is a brand new one, right? And it's one that you're going to be able to feel just renewed within yourself, and you could be whoever you want to be from this point forward. Okay, so I really think that that's the final message for our viewers. For me, I would like to thank my team, the team of Rocio Day LLC. Again, guys, if you guys want to access us, viewers, if you want to access us, please go to www.rocio-day.org. You'll see the profile of all of us, myself included, Rocio, Fabio, Natalia. Our whole team is here to absolutely answer any questions and help in any way possible. If you guys want to leave a comment for us on Facebook, or if you want to inbox us a question or anything like that, I'd be more than happy to answer you guys. Okay, and hopefully this won't be the last time we're going to meet together in a live session. I think this was really good, and I thank the team so much for being involved. We will try to do this once again. Rocio and I will also try to do this session once again in Spanish for our Spanish viewers. And so you guys know, our practice, we offer obviously English, practice in English, we have Spanish, and we have Russian, right? So we have therapists that are here to help you in any way possible. And with our children, guys, I mean, especially for our children, this is a moment they have never lived, okay? And how they get out of this is going to be on you. Because right now, more than ever, your kids are looking at you as parents. Your children are looking at you. Where do I go? What do I do from here, right? And your children have the ability to leave this also renewed, all right? So thank you so much, viewers. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, team. Stay blessed. Everybody, have a great day. Thank you so much, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.